Hey, good Wednesday to you guys. Uh, so congratulations to the 20 or so of you guys who are still sticking it out and watching these things. We are going to spend today and part of today, part of Friday, taking a look at how bureaucratic agencies do their jobs. Okay, we got a window into how the bureaucracy is organized, but like what do they actually do? Okay, so that's the question we're going to try to answer the next couple of days along with how is it that other government, or how is it that Congress and the president or the executive branch can sort of rein in these agencies, and keep them from becoming abusive. Okay, so here we go. What is it that bureaucrats do? So, in general, um, their job is to implement the goals that Congress sets for them. If Congress, for example, passes a bill reducing CO2 emissions, over the next decade or so, somebody's going to have to do that. Somebody's not going to actually have to police automakers and power plants and factories and any other industries that might be CO2 emitters. Somebody actually has to do that work, and conduct inspections, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's the job, or one of the jobs, of bureaucratic agencies. Now the thing is, why doesn't Congress do it itself? Okay, why create a goal and then hand it off to somebody else to do, for somebody else to do? The reality is, number one, uh, members of Congress are not experts on all of these different issues. Okay, they're not experts on, oh God, I don't know, monitoring COVID-19 spread across the country. Okay, members of Congress, most of them are lawyers. And so, which is nothing against lawyers, but they're not experts in every field. And the people who work at these bureaucratic agencies, they are experts, okay, on space travel and on disease, prevention and on, God, I don't know, issuing checks, to Americans during the pandemic. Okay, and so in any case, they hand this off for one of those reasons being because Congress lacks the expertise. Okay. Second major reason is if things go wrong, Congress members, they want to get reelected. And so Congress members, generally speaking, do not want to get blamed if policies go bad. Okay. Bureaucrats usually can't be fired, for implementing a policy if it winds up going bad. And so oftentimes Congress likes to hand that off, you know, for the simple fact that what if things don't go right? Okay, and who is it easier? Who would you rather blame? Okay, a nameless, faceless government agency, or somebody who's up for reelection every 2 years or every 6 years. Okay, so let's take a look at how it is that bureaucratic agencies can regulate the private sector and other government agencies. Don't worry about the Supreme Court case, Munn v. Illinois. We're going to take a look at what it is that these agencies actually do. One way they can exert influence and regulate industry is by issuing permits or issuing licenses. Okay, you want to build a gas station on a corner lot that you own, you're going to need permits for that. Okay, so that's one of the ways that governments can issue, or rather can regulate industry. Okay, many federal agencies conduct inspections. Some of them are announced, all right, planned months in advance. Others are unannounced. So like the Food and Drug Administration, okay, that guy who's inspecting, I don't know what that is, caramel corn or peanuts, I don't even know. But um, that's one way to keep industry in line is that threat of inspections. Okay, we better follow the rules because we have no idea what day an FDA inspector or a Securities and Exchange Commission inspector or some other inspector is going to show up at our door, demanding to see that we are actually following policy. Okay, and then a third tactic. These aren't the only tools, but these are three big ones. Would be lawsuits or the threat of lawsuits, more importantly. Okay, if you're a business owner and you knowingly flout, you know, government regulations, you need to know that there's a possibility you might be getting sued. Okay, and depending on what kind of laws or policies you may have broken or rules you may have broken, you may get hit with a huge fine, or you may be looking at some jail time, and so that's a pretty big motivator. Not just the lawsuit itself, but the threat of the lawsuit. Just like with inspections, the threat of the inspection is the stick that motivates people. Okay, so we got three different tools that bureaucratic agencies use. Now, remember, these people, once they're hired, oftentimes they cannot be fired, okay, or it's very difficult to fire them, except for incompetence. But it doesn't happen very often. And so, what do we have to prevent bureaucratic agencies from running amok? Okay, so here we take a look at the second half of what we're going to be looking at today here. Um, so, what are some of these constraints on bureaucratic agencies? Each of the two branches, Congress and the president, have a variety of tools available to them to help constrain or help no, I'm going to stick with constrain. Okay, help constrain bureaucratic agencies. All right, so the first one. God, there's a lot of stuff ending in TION here. So duplication. What we mean by duplication. All right, I'm going to go fast, so pause me when you need to. Duplication is assigning the same job to several different government agencies. Okay, you're duplicating the project. Let's say you want to, God, I don't know, you want to stop cocaine from coming across the border from Central America. Well, so you've got the DEA, okay, the Drug Enforcement Administration. Then you've got the U.S. military. Then you've got the Coast Guard. Then you've got Customs and Border Enforcement. Then you've got ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. You give that job to a number of different agencies. And the idea behind this, it may seem wasteful and it might seem kind of stupid, but the idea behind this is, number one, these agencies oftentimes compete against one another to get the job done. And so that competition sometimes ensures that the job is going to get done well. And on top of that, what you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent failure, I guess you could say. What happens if you give that job just to the DEA, okay, and they blow it for whatever reason, okay? Then the goal doesn't isn't implemented. You haven't accomplished anything. So by giving that job to several different government agencies, you kind of increase the likelihood that it's going to get done. Okay. Second one, authorizations or appropriations. In your notes, you guys, I would go with appropriations. Okay. You don't need to worry about authorization. What we're talking about appropriation is we're talking about money. Congress has, and here's the infamous phrase, Congress has the power of the purse. Okay. And Congress appropriates money to these agencies. Those agencies don't exist. Those jobs don't exist. That work doesn't get done without money. And, Congress has to keep those agencies funded for them to do that. And so, if you want to, you can think of it two different ways. If you want to get an agency to do what you want them to do, maybe you threaten them with reduced appropriations for next year, shrinking their budget. Okay, that might motivate them to get the work done this year. You could also go the flip side, and you give an agency an important task. You increase their budget, to help them accomplish that task. Okay, oversight and investigations. Congress has oversight powers. Okay, Congress has the power to oversee how these agencies do their job, and if they're doing their job well or if they're not doing it well. Typically, this happens in committees. We talked about committees weeks ago, specifically in hearings, okay, committee hearings. Heads of bureaucratic agencies, they go testify before Congress all the time, okay, all the time. It's fairly routine. And so what they're doing is they're, giving information to members of Congress, trying to explain themselves if there was a mistake, that needs explaining. But Congress has that oversight power. Okay, it's got like getting called into the, I don't know, getting called into the assistant principal's office. Okay, rewriting legislation. Congress can always rewrite the laws that govern these agencies in order to increase their power or in order to decrease the agency's authority. Okay, you can restrict an agency by rewriting a law that governs that agency. And so this is a fairly effective tactic. Okay, the president then. The president, you guys know, has appointment powers. So who do you appoint? You appoint people who don't look like you, but people who think and see the world the way you do. Okay, appoint your allies. You know, I mean, this is fairly routine. Okay, that presidents will appoint their allies rather than somebody whom they disagree with. I mean, that would just be dumb. Okay, executive orders. An executive order is a command. Okay, it's essentially a command from the White House to an agency on how to do their job. Barack Obama back in, God, I want to say it was like 2015. Um, I could be wrong about that, but 2015, Barack Obama issued an executive order to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement to not deport children who were brought here illegally as, well, not to not deport people who were brought here illegally as kids. Okay, most of you guys, if you pay attention to this issue, you know that this group of people I'm referring to, these are dreamers. Okay, when you hear dreamers or the Dream Act, this is who they're referring to. Obama issued an executive order, said we are not going to deport these kids, um, and that would be an example of this. Okay, your job is to enforce immigration policy. I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay, the president's economic powers. So Congress passes a budget every year, in ordinary times, and the president has to sign that. And so typically what winds up happening is before Congress ever starts debating or researching a budget, for the upcoming fiscal year, the president has to propose that budget. The president has to put the numbers together. Okay. And so, if a president wants to increase an agency's power, you propose a budget increase for that agency. If you want to shrink their power, you propose a budget decrease for next year. Okay, and that money is a powerful, powerful tool that you can use to influence how those agencies do their job. Okay, threaten them with a budget increase or threaten them with a budget decrease. Now, be aware, you guys, be very careful about this. Presidents cannot raise their agencies' budgets single-handedly. Okay, they can't shrink their budgets single-handedly. The president can only recommend a budget increase or decrease or propose one. It's up to Congress to actually do that then. Okay? And then lastly, reorganization. The bureaucracy, you guys, is in the executive branch. And so if a president wants to decrease an agency's power, one way of doing that is to give them more bosses to work underneath. Okay, and so you take an agency that maybe has been causing some problems for you, or who you don't value very much, and you reorganize that agency. You give them other bosses within the federal government. Okay, so like let's say for example, you didn't think that the National Institutes of Health or the CDC were all that important. Okay, fine. You put them, you reorganize them, you put them under the Department of Health and Human Services, and then you give them somebody else to answer to, okay, and thereby decreasing their authority. Flip it around the other way. If you want to increase an agency's autonomy or authority or power, you give them a little bit more latitude. You take them out from under a cabinet department, okay, and give them a little bit more leeway, a little bit more freedom. Okay, so that's the quick rundown of this. A lot of this is going to show up on the big study guide I sent out to you guys a few days ago. You should start working on this. Okay, I mean, especially those of you guys who are looking to raise your grade. It's totally imperative that you do this. Okay, and you don't want to start this project 2 days before it's due. Which is actually the day before your guys' AP test. You want to get this done sooner rather than later. And a lot of this stuff that I've been going over the last 14 minutes and 25 seconds is going to show up on that study guide. Okay, shoot me a reminder if you guys have questions. Otherwise, thank you guys for playing along. Keep at it, you guys. We only got a couple more weeks of heavy work. Okay, and I don't even know if you can call this heavy work, but keep at it. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.